Season 47, War number 6, and we are up against BÅLT. And this time my team will be Silk, Lady D, and Shocker. Though Shocker is only gonna be a synergy champion for Silk, he's not gonna get any actual use, so that's unfortunate, I guess. He's still only rank 1, so it's understandable. Now, I will only be taking path 2 in section 1, and no path in section 2. I was back up in there, and then for mini bosses I will be taking Silk, Sauron, Onslaught and Photon, followed by the Titania boss using Silk. So this specific war I didn't get that many fights. I can't exactly remember why I didn't get a path in section 2, but that's quite alright, I'm sure I had some reason for that. Now starting off here we have a Havok on the roll with the punches and trip feed placebo nodes, and I am taking this fight with Lady D. Not much to say about this one, to be completely honest. Lady D with that permanent armor buff completely shuts down Havok's plasma detonation damage, and she's also a tactic champion, so she does get that steadfast to be able to block any unblockable specials if necessary, though I will just be fully dexing them since it's not too difficult to do. The fight itself lasts just around 30 seconds, full yellow bar finish. Yeah, that's a very basic fight for Lady D. Then next up here we have a Mojo on the Sadist and Combat Deja Vu placebo nodes, and I am taking this fight with Silk. Now, essentially I just need to watch for my combo here, not do the same basic attacks in a row like I did there. Otherwise I will get the placebo buffs on myself, which Mojo then can benefit from, either feeding Mystic Dispersion or getting those degenerations if I happen to complete any of Mojo's prompts. So as long as I can keep an eye on that, I should be just fine taking this fight. And Mojo also has negative physical resistance, meaning he can't take a hit from Silk, and the fight goes down very quickly without any actual issues. Now here I just walk through section 2, since I wasn't actually needed even as a backup to any of the paths, so I'm just gonna go ahead and walk straight to the Silk mini-boss. So this fight right here is a Silk on the Ebb & Flow knockdown and right back at it mini-boss node, and I am taking this fight with my own Silk. Now this matchup is basically identical to any of the Silk bosses I have taken, except I can actually land some parries here and there if I need to, as well as the heavy attacks for that extra fury every now and then. Other than that, the game plan is the exact same, just push the Silk to her special 2, full dex it, and repeat that over and over again. If she happens to throw the special 1, the auto evade will save me, but generally speaking I'm gonna try to avoid doing that altogether. Now first special 2 here did a nice chunk of damage, though my damage output does suffer quite a bit from the right back added node making the defender debuff immune on knockdowns, and also the debuff immunity, or rather debuff shrug off from the protection every now and then does cut back on the physical vulnerability debuffs I got on the opponent, also hurting my damage output. That said, this fight doesn't take all too long, the health pool is not nearly as big as it is on the boss node, so just a couple special 2s, some basic attacks, and this fight is essentially over at this point. Now the prowess is also from the aggression prowess node, does make this fight a little bit scarier, but again, if the special attack can't touch you, it doesn't matter how hard it hits, and Silk is just a very safe option. If you do happen to need to use the auto evade at any point, just dance around for roughly 20 seconds and you get the evade back, then you can just get back to pushing the opponent to bars of power and baiting them just fine as you did. Then, next up here we have a Sauron on the high energy diet and burden of might miniboss node, as usual, and I am taking this fight with Lady D. Now, I could have taken this specific fight here with Silk instead, and it would have been maybe even faster and safer, but since I needed or rather I wanted the Odin's pre-fights here, namely the aptitude for the Photon miniboss later in the war, I figured that I should just take this fight with Lady D and grab the pre-fights from here. That way I wouldn't have to wait around for anyone to place the pre-fights after I take the Onslaught miniboss, and it just make it easier for everyone with the coordination. Now, just as always, this specific fight here, I just keep the heal block debuff up, and that's about all I need to worry about. If I can, I will get an intercept here and then, every now and then, just to get the taunt up for the power drain on special activation, but that's about all there is to it. The heal block itself is all I need to be able to shut down the unblockable and the regen on this node, and the fight itself is quite safe and simple to take, though I would suggest learning to dex the special one even while rooted, because if you do get hit by it, it can hurt quite a lot. Now, next up we have an Onslaught here on the Feat of Vigilance, Power Efficiency and Missing in Action miniboss node, and I will be taking this fight with Silk. And game plan here is the usual special 3 rotation. As soon as I get to my special 3, the fight is over. It doesn't matter how tanky this guy is, he will go down. Now, this specific Onslaught also had the recoil masteries on for whatever reason, so that's just gonna speed things up a little bit. Though at the same time it does mean I take some more chip damage from blocking hits, and even more so from the neuroshocks, since those do stack up a little bit every now and then. Now, due to the recoil masteries here, the Onslaught is, well, closing in on that 50% mark, and actually I wouldn't need to push myself to a special 3 to do the rotation to take this guy down. A simple special 2, special 1 and the fight would be over, but I didn't wanna do anything risky, I guess, and just do the plan I had in mind going in, and that should be fine and good enough to close out this fight. I will lose some fight time doing this, but that's quite alright. I don't think we are really worried about that in this specific war either way, and the fight goes down without any bigger problems. Taken some cheap damage from the neuroshocks, but that's basically unavoidable against this guy, and it just means I need to use a potion for the boss, but that's fine. Anyways, next up we have this Photon here on the Stun Reflection and Polka Dot Power miniboss node, and I'm taking the fight with Lady D, as usual. Though, as I said in the previous war, my usual game plan against Photon will not work here. I cannot use the Light Whip to trigger the Pure Light form manually on Photon, so I need to play around her abilities a little bit differently than I usually would. So instead of trying to trigger the Pure Light form by utilizing her dashback timer, by either hitting her block due to the fear of getting reparried, or trying to use the Light Whip, which will not currently work, I will utilize the knockdown method instead. Basically, while Photon is at or above 10 charges, knocking her down will trigger the Pure Light form, so essentially my aim is to get her to 10 charges, beta special so she has as little power as possible, and then knock her down with either baiting a heavy attack and countering it with my own heavy, or by dropping my own special attack, and then once the Pure Light form is active, just do not hit her enough to push her to a bar of power, wait it out, and then you can go back to baiting her specials just fine and dex them without any issues. Now, one thing I need to keep an eye on here on this specific node as well is the brute force timer, so whenever I do trigger the Pure Light form, I need to land a hit here and there to reset the brute force, otherwise I will be taking some degen damage from that, which I would like to avoid. So far the fight has gone very clean, and she goes down without any bigger issues. A tiny bit of chip damage there, but that's honestly not bad at all. The fight went a lot better than I expected going in, even without the Light Whip trick working. And then we have the final fight of this war, a Titania boss that I will be taking with Silk. Now, I didn't need to take this fight with Silk, I just wanted to, which is why I also brought in the Shocker synergy to give myself those Rupture debuffs on medium attacks, just to increase my damage output further. So essentially, this fight is nothing special, it's basically the same as any Silk boss fights I have taken so far. Just hit the opponent, bait the specials, full dex them, and spam my own special too. Now, I was concerned about my damage output here, since Titania is a tankier defender than a Silk boss would be, and that is exactly why I brought in the Shocker synergy, and that, as you can see, is helping a little bit here with those Rupture debuffs. Now, a better idea would have been to just bring in a stronger Titania counter as my third champion, but as I said, I just wanted to see if Silk would work here well or not, and I wanted to test out the Shocker synergy in action as well. And honestly, sure, the fight is very slow, but it is very safe, and I can't really fault my decision to do so. Now, if we were against an alliance where fight time would make a difference, I definitely would not have tried this, since this is a whole lot slower than someone like Kate Bishop would be, for example. And I am very comfortable fully dexing Titania Special 1, so someone like Kate would be a decent option, even with the defense tactic. Now it's been a minute and a half, Titania is below 50%, so slowly but surely she is going down. One thing that actually helps me here is the fact that Titania is immune to buffs, so she will not gain any of the physical or energy resistance buffs from the boss node, meaning she will not become any tankier throughout the fight than she would be at the very start of it. And that does make a difference. The resistance buffs, I don't know exactly how potent they are, but the damage decrease is very noticeable when using someone like Silk, who relies on a specific type of damage throughout all of her abilities. Now, at this point, that's about all there is to say about this fight. Honestly, Titania is just a very simple fight to take with most champions. She's not really a defender, the main threat she has is that haymaker, and honestly just a few seconds of you dashing away from her, and then just go back in and keep hitting her until she drops. All she has is a big health pool, and that's about it. Now, one thing that I do here, which I also shouldn't do, is I push her to her special 2 intentionally to showcase Silk's auto-evade safety net, which was pretty stupid, to be completely honest, because a single missed special 1 dex and I could potentially die here, so intentionally consuming my safety net for no real reason is not a smart move, but I did it anyways. And yeah, it's an unnecessary risk to take. I could have just waited it out, or waited the special 1 out by dancing around for a little bit. And luckily, at least, it didn't cost me this time around. The fight goes down in over 3 minutes, so like I said, a very slow fight, but no damage taken, Silk is still standing, and I did get the solo. Just goes to show how potent Silk is as a Alliance 4 attacker. That said, against Sun immunes, she's not exactly the fastest option for anyone. As for the results, we did end up winning the war 126 to 8. So yeah, the fight time didn't exactly make a difference for this one.